Chapter 91. Chen Xiuqi returns. 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 91. Chen Xiuqi returns. 2. Kidijio. If you enjoy reading The Male Lead Substitute Wife, you may like my new translation as well. Female lead has no cheats. FLNC. Everyone likes people who worked hard, especially when they had the talent. People would like them even more. Director Zhou had been a director for many years, so he treasures talented people, like Su Yaya. Su Yaya was focused on learning from other people's photo shoots that she didn't know about director Zhou Tongguang's change of thoughts. She waited for everyone to finish their photo shoots, then went to eat with them. While eating, Chen Yan, who was the female lead and the person treating them out, sat in the center. To her left was Zhou Tongguang and to the right was Yu Hui. Then, it was the male lead, Su Chaoran. Then, it was Su Yaya, and then the second male lead, Zhang Yu, company director, and then the photographer. There were 10 of them in the table. While eating, Chen Yan was great at making the atmosphere more lively. The entire table laughed and chuckled every now and then. They drank quite a bit of alcohol. Su Yaya sat by the side, well-behaved. She would drink a few glasses when it was her turn. She didn't dare steal Chen Yan's spotlight but wasn't too quiet either. It was just right for her. Su Chaoran sat by her side, and seeing that she was from the same company as him, he reminded her not to drink too much. When she didn't have to drink, don't drink. Chen Yan had heard this and pointed at him, saying, "My male lead actually cares about someone else other than me." Su Chaoran said calmly, "Well, she's my junior sister." "Nice, nice." Yu Hui clapped his hands and everyone laughed along. After they finished, it was almost 2 hours later. The others had their own plans, but Su Yaya was free, so she had Xiaoyu drive her home. When she returned home, Su Yaya went to nap first, then continued to look through the play script after she woke up. Without realizing, another day had passed. At night, Su Yaya laid on bed after rinsing and recalled how she hadn't contacted Chen Xiuqi the entire day. She didn't know what he was busy with. She opened her WeChat to see the message still there. Chen Xiuqi hadn't replied. This wasn't good. She decided to call Chen Xiuqi and ask. That way, he could tell how much she cared for him. She clicked on Chen Xiuqi's number and called him. Yet, it said that he was busy and the call ended after a few rings. Su Yaya pursed her lips. She couldn't get a hold of him, so she could only send him another text. She sent him a cute, "I miss you" picture and then turned her phone off. She went to have her beauty sleep. The next morning, Su Yaya and Zhou Peiyun went to the Fruit TV station to find producer Sun Lei to talk about the specifics of food and guests. Everything went by successfully, and Su Yaya just needed to cook 3 specialty dishes of hers for the program and answer some of the questions posed by the host. Of course, the host would go through the questions with her beforehand so she could think about how to answer the question in the program. This episode would be broadcasted next Wednesday and the treatment was pretty good. Su Yaya was very satisfied. Zhou Peiyun and Sun Lei both flattered each other and they were looking forward to next week's collaboration. They successfully signed the contract, then Zhou Peiyun brought Su Yaya along to say goodbye to Sun Lei. Then they left the Fruit TV station. On the way back, in the car, Zhou Peiyun reminded Su Yaya, "You will be going to the set tomorrow to film scenes. You have to be smart and don't let others bully you. Xiaoyu will follow you. Call me if you have any problems." Su Yaya asked, "Sister Zhou isn't following me over." Zhou Peiyun said, "There's an urgent matter and I need to handle some things. After I'm done, I'll go over and find you. I will ask the set for the day off for Wednesday in advance, so you just need to focus on filming your scenes." Su Yaya said, "I know." When the car drove back to the villa, Su Yaya said goodbye to Zhou Peiyun. She got out of the car and walked to the door, punching in the password and walking in. She saw a man's leather shoes by the door and a faint smell of smoke in the air. Was Chinchochi back? Su Yaya raised her head and called towards the room, "Hubby, you're back." There was a slight movement behind the curtains of the balcony. Su Yaya took off her high heels and ran barefoot over to the balcony without even changing into her slippers. She pulled the ocean blue curtains over to see Chinchochi sitting on a chair smoking, just as expected. Su Yaya walked over and hugged him. She softly and sweetly said, "Hubby, when did you come back?" Chinchochi put out the cigarette and placed it in the ashtray. He reached over and pulled Su Yaya to sit on his thigh. He held her waist and rubbed his chin against her neck. "Have you missed me these few days?" Su Yaya wrapped her hands around his throat and looked at her reflection through his eyes. She pursed her pouting lips and acted cute, saying, "Of course I do. I miss you a lot. I even sent you texts but you didn't respond." Chinchochi looked at her and pursed his lips. He said gently, "I have been busy these past few days so I didn't see the texts." "Oh, I guess that would have been the case." Su Yaya wasn't upset by Chinchochi not responding to her messages. Instead, she asked in concern, "Are you done with your work?" Chinchochi continued to hold her and hummed in agreement. He pecked her lips and asked, "Why don't you ask what I have been working on?" Ednel.co. Chapter 92. Lady Chen, 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92. Lady Chen, 1, whoa. This question was beyond her capabilities to answer. Su Yaya had never thought of asking him this question. He was the male lead in the book while she was a cannon fodder. It wasn't up to her to ask about his whereabouts. She knew that very well and understood their relationship as well. She would definitely not overstep her boundaries. But since Chinchochi had already asked this, if she didn't comply, it wouldn't look good on her. Chinchochi might be upset because of this. It's better to follow along with what he wants so that he will be pleased. Therefore, Su Yaya took her own advice and asked, "Hubby, what have you been busy with? You didn't even respond to my messages." Unsure whether it was because she had great acting skills or that Chinchochi's attention wasn't on this conversation at all, but he couldn't tell what he had asked before so she didn't have to answer his question. He hugged her tightly and said in a bit of an upset tone, "I went to see my mother over these past few days." His mother? Lady Chen. Su Yaya was shocked. When she was reading the novel, it didn't talk about the Lady Chen. She thought it said that Chinchochi's parents had divorced while he was in his teens. Chinchochi and Lady Chen didn't have a good relationship and haven't seen each other for many years. The novel didn't talk much about Lady Chen. However, she transmigrated to the beginning of the novel. There was a possibility that the situation right now was different from the original novel. Chinchochi went to visit his sick mother, which meant that Chinchochi and Lady Chen's relationship wasn't as poor and bad as described by the novel. At the very least, Chinchochi cared about his mother. After all, it was clear he was worried about picking up the call that morning. His expressions couldn't hide his worry. "Is your mother okay?" After Chinchochi picked up the call that day, his face seemed unwell. Plus, he left in a hurry afterwards. Su Yaya guessed that something must have happened to Lady Chen, which was why she was asking right now. Chinchochi looked at her and revealed a look of displease. Su Yaya saw his gaze and her heart pounded. She immediately reacted and changed the way she addressed the question, "I meant how is our mother now?" This man loves to argue over small things. It was just a sentence, but he would glare at her as if she had done something incredibly bad. Was he trying to say that his mother wasn't his mother anymore because of what she was saying? Plus, they were only married by contract. Everyone knew this. Could she change the truth just by changing the way she addressed Lady Chen? PSH, immature. Su Yaya wanted to roll her eyes, but taking into account of Chinchochi's feelings, she endured this. Thankfully she did, and Chinchochi hadn't seen her either. Otherwise, who knew how angry he could be, because Chinchochi was very worried for his mother right now. Although he and his mother had separated for numerous years, blood was thicker than water. It was impossible for him to not be worried. She's sick. She suddenly fainted this morning. At the beginning, we thought it was a chronic sickness and that frightened everyone. Thankfully, we brought her to the hospital in time. After having a specialist look over her condition, they were positive it wasn't her chronic sickness acting out but a very serious cold. Just by recalling this, Chen Xiuqi frightened himself. If his mother didn't just have a serious cold but the chronic sickness or even a more serious illness, he really couldn't forgive himself if he arrived there a moment too late and couldn't see his mother. He couldn't forgive himself for the rest of his life. Actually, when she divorced my father, I hated her. At that time, I had just finished taking my college entrance exam and got the highest score for the sciences. I thought that since I had such great scores, she would be very happy for me. What a pity that she wasn't. She just said that I was outstanding, then moved out of the Chen family household. Back then, I knew she and my father didn't have a great relationship, but I didn't want to face this fact. I lied to myself and hoped that their relationship would improve like in the past and we would all be together. But looking back, I realized that it was just a one-sided wish. That they quickly finished handling the divorce procedure and my mom left without saying anything. She hasn't visited me once all these years and I hated her a lot for that time. I always thought that she was cold-hearted and ruthless, abandoning me. Was I not her son? Up until recently, we never saw each other. She has grown older but was still as beautiful as before. She was also very concerned for me. I finally realized that the hatred and resentment I held for her in the past meant nothing now. I just want her to live a good life. Su Yaya silently listened to him and then patted his hand. She comforted him saying, "Don't worry. Thankfully there aren't any major problems. She just needs to take her medicine, be put on 4 and she'll be fine in a few days. She won't feel good if you keep on worrying for her. Your mother should be fine now, right?" Chapter 93. Lady Chen, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93. Lady Chen, 2, Chen Xiuqi controlled his emotions and nodded. The doctor said she was fine, which is why I came back. Also because there were urgent matters that she needed to handle. Otherwise, she would have stayed there an extra 2 days. Su Yaya said, "When are you planning to take me to see her? I haven't seen her." Chen Xiuqi's parents divorced a decade or so ago. The two haven't contacted each other for many years. In order to inherit his grandfather's millions worth of inheritance, Chen Xiuqi found Su Yaya's parents and decided to marry the original host through contract. Chen Xiuqi only brought her back to see his grandfather, second uncle, and second aunt. His father was still enjoying his time abroad at that time, having the time of his life with women. Therefore, Su Yaya hadn't seen his parents before. Chen Xiuqi paused then said, "Okay. I'll find a chance and I'll bring you to see her." Su Yaya hummed and kissed him on the face. She smiled and said, "Hubby, you're so good to me." Seeing her like this, she was like a buffoon. She was always smiling and free from worries. He felt better whenever he was with her. Chen Xiuqi kissed her and his Adam's apple bobbed. He said hoarsely, "I'm hungry." Su Yaya's eyes looked around and asked, "I'll cook for you. What do you want to eat?" Chen Xiuqi kissed her again and there was a dangerous glint in his deep eyes, like a hungry wolf. "I just want to eat you." "Ah." Chen Xiuqi carried her princess style and Su Yaya wasn't prepared at all. She screamed in shock, scared that she might fall out of his arms off. She hurriedly wrapped her arms around his neck, making Chen Xiuqi chuckle at her. He carried her into the room. Go upstairs." Su Yaya was pressed against the sofa by Chen Xiuqi, trying to struggle. However, Chen Xiuqi had pressed her down and his warm breath on her neck. "I can't wait." When it was over, Su Yaya was like a puddle of water. She cuddled in Chinshochi's arms, feeling like her body was about to fall apart. She was too lazy to even move her fingers. Her eyes were red from the bullying and her throat was hoarse. Water. Su Yaya said this tiredly and softly, without strength. Chinshochi knew that he had overdone it. He reached over to caress her face. There was a smile in his eyes and he gently said, "Lay here for a while. I'll go pour water for you." Su Yaya was too lazy to even respond. She just opened her eyes and then closed it, indicating she knew. Look at her fragile body. Sigh. Chinshochi sighed. He had provoked her so he would have to take care of her. He accepted this task and stood up to pour water for Su Yaya. Chinshochi came back with a glass of water and personally fed her water. Su Yaya squinted her eyes like a kitten, enjoying Chinshochi's care. Heh. She was always the one serving him in the past. Now that the roles had changed, why did she feel so happy? Heh. Chinshochi looked at her smiling and he reached over to pat her head. He didn't know why but he just wanted to keep pampering her. As long as she was happy. The two cuddled on the sofa for a while and Su Yaya slowly recovered. She laid on Chinshochi's body and she couldn't bear to leave him. "I will be going to the set tomorrow morning. I really don't want to leave you." Chinshochi was very pleased with her words. Seeing the kitten-like woman cuddled up in his arms, his heart softened and was on the verge of melting. He lowered his head to kiss her face. He said gently, "How about you don't go?" Su Yaya's eyes widened when she heard this. She was like a kitten before but she immediately changed now. She said seriously, "How could I? I already signed the contract and I can't ruin it. I have integrity for my profession." She would have to pay money if she ruined the contract. She hadn't earned anything yet and it was far from her goal. She can't fall into Chinshochi's trap. She has integrity for her profession. Chinshochi raised his eyebrows and laughed. He pinched her face and said, "Whatever you want." Su Yaya hurriedly nodded, sighing in her heart. She was already scared that Chinshochi might not let her go in the spur of the moment. Then she would suffer a huge loss. Chinshochi thought about it and said, "Do you want me to bring you there tomorrow?" Su Yaya shook her head and said, "No, it's okay. My assistant will come and pick me up." "You have an assistant?" Chinshochi chuckled. Su Yaya said proudly, "Of course. Why can't I have one? After all, I am the second female lead of the drama. The company would have to give me an assistant no matter what, since I'm going to the set to film now." That seemed reasonable. Chinshochi nodded. Recalling her silly and naive personality, he was a bit worried. He reminded her, "When you're at the set, remember to be wise and quick-witted. Don't let yourself be bullied. Call me if there are any problems." Am I that easily bullied? Su Yaya pouted and thought. Why was everyone saying this to her? Did she look so naive? You look like the type to be easily bullied. In Chinshochi's eyes, she was cute and adorable. She fit the type. If he wasn't protecting her, who knew how bad her life would be? Su Yaya was speechless. Chapter 94. He could be the real supporting male lead. 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 94. He could be the real supporting male lead. 1. Good thing Su Yaya wasn't someone who allowed herself to be confused for a long period of time. She tossed this thought to the back of her mind and held on to Chinshochi's arms. She leaned her head against his shoulder and said, "I will miss you once I'm gone." Chinshochi looked down at her and considered her words. Did she want him to visit her? His lips curled into a smile and said, "Do you want me to visit you then?" Su Yaya blinked her eyes. This was a pretty good suggestion. In the past, she said that she missed Chinshochi because she wanted to please him. She wanted to give him the feeling as if she was infatuated with him. But if Qin Xiuqi could really come and visit her, it would be different. It was a great idea. Will you come? Su Yaya looked up at Qin Xiuqi and her eyes were sparkling bright like diamonds. Qin Xiuqi didn't immediately agree but he said, I need to have assistant Qin take a look. If my work allows me to, I will come when I have time. Okay. Su Yaya smiled and said, if you come, give me a call and notify me first. If you can't come, that's fine too. I'll just come back to visit you whenever I have a break. Although Qin Xiuqi mentioned this first, Su Yaya didn't hold much hope. Of course, it would be best if he could come. If he couldn't, it was no big deal either. If she didn't have expectations, she wouldn't be disappointed. She just needed to face this calmly. Qin Xiuqi liked how sensible she was. He smiled and said, then this is settled. Su Yaya said, okay. That night, Su Yaya took out her suitcase and packed everything she needed to bring to the set. Clothes, makeup products, skin products, bags. Etc. The more she tried to pack, the messier it became. A huge pile of things were on the bed and she still wasn't done yet. Qin Xiuqi looked at it and shook his head. She walked over and said, why are women so problematic when leaving the house? Just bring a card with you. You can buy whatever you're missing over there. Su Yaya stared at him and pouted miserably. I need to bring makeup and skin products, clothes, and all of that. Otherwise, what should I do when I'm there? The original host took care of her body so she needed to do the same too. She should bring whatever was needed. Otherwise, she would have to say goodbye to her beautiful face and figure. Qin Xiuqi was unable to understand why this woman was so stubborn. He sighed and asked, do you want me to help you pack? Su Yaya blinked her eyes. Can I? Qin Xiuqi wanted to say no but after looking at her big and pure eyes, he couldn't reject her. Whatever. She was his woman anyway. He might as well pamper her. Okay, I'll help you pack. Qin Xiuqi said. Su Yaya happily pecked Qin Xiuqi's face. She had crescent-like eyes, and there were 2 cute dimples on her cheeks. Thank you hubby, you're the best. I love you. She was getting better and better at making Qin Xiuqi do what she wanted. She talked smoothly, not feeling awkward or embarrassed at all. Thankfully, Qin Xiuqi was willing to do as she pleased. He looked at her in a pampering gaze and helped to pack her suitcase. By the time it was completely done, it was already 10 p.m. Su Yaya had to wake up early the next day and the two were already exhausted. They went to their respective bathrooms to rinse and then quietly laid in bed to sleep. It was rare for them to lay in bed and for nothing to happen. Su Yaya didn't even need to be crushed into a pancake. She slept soundly tonight. In the morning, Duan Xiaoyu came to the villa to take Su Yaya to the airport and meet up with the cast. She was afraid of being late so she especially came 20 minutes earlier. When the doorbell rang, Qin Xiuqi woke up first. He turned to his side to see Su Yaya who had buried her head in the blankets. She slept soundly and he couldn't bear to wake her up. He moved the blankets to the side and walked out to open the door. The door opened and Qin Xiuqi stared at Duan Xiaoyu. He said expressionlessly, you are Yaya's assistant. Duan Xiaoyu would have never thought it was Qin Xiuqi who would open the door. Facing Qin Ziqi's dominant imposing manner, she nervously gulped and stuttered while talking. Yes, I am Sister Yaya's assistant. I am Duan Xiaoyu. Qin Xiuqi nodded and stepped to the side. He said to Duan Xiaoyu, you can come in. I'm going to go get Yaya. Duan Xiaoyu said, oh, and walked into the room, unable to react. In private, she had heard gossip about Su Yaya and Qin Xiuqi. Everyone said that Qin Xiuqi was Su Yaya's sugar daddy but they didn't get to see him. Therefore, some believed it and some didn't. Until she became Su Yaya's assistant and Zhou Peiyun kept on mentioning for her to keep to herself, no matter what she heard or saw. If the public asked about it, she had to say she didn't know. She then realized that Su Yaya was probably different from what she thought. Chapter 95. He could be the real supporting male lead. 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. He could be the real supporting male lead. 2. Right now, everything in front of her confirmed her thoughts. Qin Xiuqi was really Su Yaya's sugar daddy and they lived together. Ah. It seems like she found out something impressive. Thankfully, Su Yaya didn't know what Duan Xiaoyu was thinking. But even if she did, she probably would have nodded her head. From her perspective, Qin Xiuqi was her sugar daddy and they did live with each other. There was nothing wrong with this. Heh. Qin Xiuqi returned to the room to get Su Yaya. Your assistant is here and waiting for you outside. Quickly get up, otherwise you will be late to the airport. Su Yaya sat up on the bed and had a look of pity. I had a great dream and you just ruined it. You. Qin Xiuqi chuckled and pinched her face. It was smooth and soft. He was touched for a second and asked, what did you dream of? Me. Su Yaya hastily nodded. Yes, yes. You were quite handsome in the dream. Is that so? Qin Xiuqi was interested in her response. How handsome? The most handsome. Su Yaya answered quickly. Qin Xiuqi was speechless. Haha. Su Yaya chuckled proudly and pounced in Qin Xiuqi's arms. She pecked his face and said, good morning kiss. Qin Xiuqi stared at her smiling face. Fine. He won't argue with her. He was indeed handsome anyway. Go rinse. Qin Xiuqi patted her butt. What a minx. Su Yaya giggled and got off Qin Xiuqi. Then she ran to the bathroom and rinsed. Once Su Yaya was done packing, time was almost up. Duan Xiaoyu thought she made a smart decision to come 20 minutes earlier. We're leaving now. Goodbye. Su Yaya said goodbye at the door. Qin Xiuqi kissed her forehead and gently reminded her, be careful on the way to the airport. Call me if anything happens. Su Yaya nodded, well behaved. I know. Qin Xiuqi turned around to say to Duan Xiaoyu who was carrying the suitcase. I'm leaving you to take care of Yaya. Don't worry, President Qin. I will take good care of Yaya. Duan Xiaoyu answered, feeling like she was fed too much dog food this early in the morning. She couldn't digest it. She waited for Su Yaya and Qin Xiuqi to finally finish cuddling one another. Once they were in the car heading to the airport, Duan Xiaoyu sighed. She looked down at her phone and opened Weibo. She forwarded a picture of Koi seeking marriage. She silently swore that she would definitely find a guy this year. Being single was too miserable. Wah. The car quickly arrived at the airport. Su Yaya wore her sunglasses then got out of the car. Duan Xiaoyu was in charge of carrying the suitcase. The two walked to the airport lobby and saw the staff for the set. The two walked over to meet up with them and quickly finished handling the different procedures for the plane ride. Then they walked through security and rested inside the VIP airport departure terminal. Su Yaya arrived first and sat down by a seat in the corner. She took out her phone and scrolled through her Weibo. Then the show's male lead, Su Chaoran, came. He wore a black and white casual outfit, with a baseball hat and sunglasses. He walked into the VIP airport departure terminal and saw Su Yaya sitting on the side. He took off his sunglasses and greeted Su Yaya. When did you get here? Su Yaya raised her head and smiled at him. I just got here. BVEC Su Chaoran looked at the seat beside her and asked, can I sit here? Su Yaya didn't care. Sure, there's no one anyway. Su Chaoran gently laughed and sat next to her. He took out his phone and unlocked it, saying to Su Yaya, let's follow each other on Weibo. Su Yaya blinked her eyes. She was just an invisible actress in Starlit Entertainment while Su Chaoran was the elder brother and also the male lead of Flourishing Palace. If they followed each other, it felt like she was the one taking advantage of him. Was this really okay? Would she be attacked by his fans, saying that she was using him for fame? She was a bit worried. Su Chaoran stared at her hesitant face and he seemed to guess her worry. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. We're just following each other on Weibo. Nothing will happen. If you don't believe me, ask your manager. Plus, you're from the same company as my junior sister and I. I am supposed to take care of you anyway, right?" What he said seemed reasonable. Su Yaya was speechless. Since Su Chaoran had said all of this, if Su Yaya continued to reject him, she wasn't giving him face. After all, he was the company's elder brother. Even the boss had to give him face, not to mention a newbie like her. Then I'm going to trouble senior brother. Su Yaya smoothly opened her Weibo and followed Su Chaoran. Seeing Su Yaya appearing in his list of followers, Su Chaoran subconsciously smiled. Then he posted something. Su Chaoran.v. Hi, junior sister. Su Yaya smiling.jpg. After he sent this, Su Chaoran turned around to look at Su Yaya. Forward this. What? Su Chaoran pointed at her phone. Su Yaya looked down to see the new post. Su Yaya was speechless. T/N, regarding the chapter title that the author gave, Su Chaoran may be the novel world supporting male lead, since Chen Xiuqi is the novel world's main male lead. Chapter 96. Something's Wrong, 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. Something's Wrong, 1, under Su Chaoran's gaze, Su Yaya had no choice but to forward his post. Su Yaya. Senior brother, hi. Su Chaoran smiling.jpg. Seeing that she posted something, Su Chaoran was extremely happy. He pointed at his phone and said, "Look at how understanding we are with each other." Su Yaya was dumbstruck. So this was how Starlit Entertainment's elder brother, Su Chaoran, acts. After the two posted their respective posts, after a while, the female lead, Chen Yan, and second male lead, Zhang Yu arrived too. Then director Zhou Tongguang and producer Yu Hui as well as other photographers arrived too. At this time, it was time to board, so everyone got on plane. After Su Yaya got on plane, she shut her phone off. The entire plane ride was almost 3 hours long. She spent 2 hours sleeping, so she had no idea what was going on the internet. At first, Su Chaoran's fans noticed that Su Chaoran finally updated his Weibo after half a month. They were incredibly excited and all went into his Weibo to see the content. Then they saw the post where Su Chaoran called Su Yaya as his junior sister. Right after, Su Yaya forwarded the post and commented on the same thing. She called Su Chaoran her senior brother. When did Su Yaya become Su Chaoran's junior sister? When were their relationship that good? Su Chaoran's 3 million worth of fans were all confused. However, the fans had very strong powers. They were extremely valiant at exploiting all the information. Quickly, Su Chaoran's fans found traces of information. Firstly, Su Chaoran and Su Yaya were both Starlit Entertainment's actors. Su Chaoran was the elder brother of the company, without a doubt. Su Yaya entered the company later than Su Chaoran, so it made sense why she called him senior brother. Secondly, Su Chaoran and Su Yaya were both part of the cast for Flourishing Palace. One was the male lead and the other was the second female lead. Su Chaoran was the emperor and Su Yaya was imperial concubine Shu. In the beginning, the emperor pampers imperial concubine Shu a lot. They had a lot of scenes together. In addition, someone else exposed an inside story. On the day where the actors went to take their makeup photos, Su Chaoran took care of Su Yaya and reminded her to not drink too much alcohol while they were having lunch together. Chen Yan even made a joke saying that Su Chaoran only cared about Su Yaya and not her. He calmly said that Su Yaya was his junior sister and it was his responsibility to take care of her. From the information above, this was the origin of Su Chaoran and Su Yaya's relationship. Su Chaoran's fans who genuinely liked them were clearly happy for him. After Su Chaoran accepted Su Yaya as his junior sister, the fans all accepted this too. They started to make all sorts of jokes. It was bustling with comments all of a sudden. Wind. Junior sister and senior brother are so lovely with each other. Heart.jpg, why not love each other? Senior brother, hello. At why not think about each other? Why not think about each other? Junior sister, hello. At why not love each other? Ah. Hello senior brother. I love you. At hee hee. Hee hee. Hello junior sister, I love you too. At ah. Gentle kitten. Scram, the people above with their PDA. Transparent autumn. Plus 10,086 immortal moon god. Plus ID number. Su Chaoran's fans had fun. A bunch of couples confessed their love for one another and a lot of people started topics like hashtag senior brother Su Chaoran and junior sister Su Yaya. Besides fans, there were other strangers who found this fun. They started to participate in this too. For a moment, hundreds and thousands of comments were on Su Chaoran's Weibo. The number of forwards and likes went to tens of thousands in the blink of an eye. Su Yaya became even more famous because of this. One could see the rapid increase of fans and she received numerous likes and comments. Her Weibo exploded with comments. However, as celebrities, one would have true fans and anti-fans. The true fans would be happy over the celebrities' happiness. They sincerely liked the celebrities. It was the opposite for anti-fans. They enjoyed inciting disharmony and making the smallest things a big deal. They would make up all sorts of nonsense, wanting the celebrities to fall to their misfortune. Of course, while Su Chaoran's sincere fans were joking around, the anti-fans started doing their things too. They started to comment under hashtag senior brother Su Chaoran and junior sister Su Yaya and liked comments that incited a quarrel. For example, Moon likes to eat fish. You fools. I don't know what you guys are happy about. When are there so many senior brothers and junior sisters nowadays? They're basically confessing to each other. The senior brother is the hubby and the junior sister is the wife. Being single is not an issue. I agree with the person above. Su Chaoran actually found an online celebrity as his girlfriend. This is really dropping this status. I'm his anti-fan now, anti-fan. Little thing. What right does Su Yaya have, an online celebrity who made her way up by relying on her sugar daddy, to be Chaoran's girlfriend? We don't accept this. Love Chaoran. Wah. Brother Chaoran is running off with a slut. I'm going to unfollow him, unfollow him. These comments were the more gentle ones. There were others which were even more degrading and ugly. It was like they could spew poop out of their mouths. They even referred back to the gossip that Su Yaya clarified before. They did all they could to comment below hashtag senior brother Su Chaoran and junior sister Su Yaya. The battles of the fans were endless and it was as messy as smoke coming out of a battlefield. Quickly, hashtag senior brother Su Chaoran and junior sister Su Yaya made it on hot search. Chapter 97. Something's Wrong, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97. Something's Wrong, 2, it was a good thing that Su Chaoran's fans were valiant. They attacked and retorted all sorts of anti-fans comments. They successfully beat up the anti-fans, not giving them a chance to hurt Su Chaoran at all. Under this topic of hashtag senior brother Su Chaoran and junior sister Su Yaya, one could only see comments that were beneficial to Su Chaoran and Su Yaya. The moment Su Yaya and the others got off the plane, Su Yaya turned her phone on to see Zhou Peiyun calling her. Her first sentence was, "Su Yaya, do you know you got on hot search again?" Her second sentence was, "What's the matter between you and Su Chaoran? When did you guys become senior brothers and junior sisters?" Su Yaya responded, "I don't know anything about the hot search. I just got off the plane and turned my phone on when you called me. I can't really explain what happened between me and Su Chaoran, but he was the one who suggested following each other on Weibo. He was the one who called me junior sister first as well. He was standing by my side and watching me before. He wanted me to forward the Weibo and I had no choice but to do so." Zhou Peiyun said, "That's simple." Su Yaya retorted, "Do you think I would lie?" Zhou Peiyun paused and said, "Overall, this isn't bad. You and Su Chaoran both made it on hot search and his fans are very protective of him. But they don't dislike you either. If it was someone else who used him for fame, who knows how much they would have been scolded. You guys are both Starlet Entertainment's actors and he is willing to take care of you. Therefore, you need to maintain a good relationship with him. Since he is willing to treat you as his junior sister, you are not losing anything by calling him senior brother." Su Yaya agreed and said, "If there's nothing else, I'm going to hang up now. Okay." Zhou Peiyun hung up. Su Yaya placed her phone in her bag when it rang again. She thought that Zhou Peiyun had something to say and that she had forgotten. She mumbled something and took her phone out again. She looked at the screen to see Chen Xiuqi's name jumping. It was actually Chen Xiuqi calling. Su Yaya's heart thumped rapidly. Zhou Peiyun just called her to say that she and Su Chaoran made it on hot search. Right after, Chen Xiuqi called her too. Could he be asking about the hot search too? Su Yaya quickly pondered over this. If Chen Xiuqi asked about her and Su Chaoran, how should she respond? After preparing a draft, she then picked up the phone. She said sweetly, "Xiuqi, I just got off the plane when you called. I'm so happy." Xiuqi. Chen Xiuqi was slightly stunned. Whenever Su Yaya tried to act cute with him, she liked to call him hubby. If there were strangers, she would pay attention to her words and properly call him President Chen. Regarding Xiuqi as an address, she never called him that before. It was the first time. Maybe it was because this was the first time, Chen Xiuqi felt a strange feeling rising in his heart. This address made them sound intimate. It made him feel like she had lingering feelings for him and couldn't bear to part with him. "You got off the plane?" Chen Xiuqi asked. Su Yaya said. "I'm walking out of the airport now. I have to take a car later on." Chen Xiuqi asked, "Are you with people from the set?" "Yes." Su Yaya nodded, then realized that Chen Xiuqi couldn't see her at all. She was clearly used to being well-behaved. "Stay away from Su Chaoran," Chen Xiuqi immediately said. He clearly called to warn her after seeing her and Su Chaoran on hot search. Su Yaya actually wanted to ask why, since nothing was going on between her and Su Chaoran. They didn't do anything overboard either. But when she thought about it, she remembered that Chen Xiuqi was the book's dominant male lead, her sugar daddy. If he had her walk to the east, she couldn't go west. Otherwise, she might offend Chen Xiuqi and land herself with tragic consequences. It wasn't something she could endure. Being a cannon fodder, it was better to treasure her life and make her relationship with Chen Xiuqi better. "I know." Su Yaya obediently agreed. Su Yaya felt like she agreed reluctantly. She recalled how miserable she would look at him, her eyes full of water and about to cry. She was fragile like a little kitten. His hardened heart couldn't help but soften. He said gently, "Yaya, stay away from Su Chaoran. You don't understand some things. I'm scared that you might suffer, do you understand?" Su Yaya said oh and thought about Chen Xiuqi's words. She understood his words on the surface, but there seemed to be a hidden meaning beneath it. She didn't understand that part, but she decided to follow Chinshochi's instructions. She smiled and said, I know. Don't worry. I will always listen to you. Receiving a certain response, Chinshochi was slightly comforted. He said to Suyaya, film your scenes and I'll come and visit you in a few days. Okay. Suyaya answered quickly, her voice full of sweet happiness. She just entered the set and didn't even start filming yet, when Chinshochi said he would make time to come and visit her. Just thinking about it made her happy. They made a promise just like that. However, no one knew that before Chinshochi could even make time to visit her, Suyaya was in trouble within the set. Chapter 98. It Hurts. 1. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 98. It Hurts. 1. That day was the day Suyaya's first joined the crew and began filming, and she only had one scene then with the male lead, Su Chaoran. Currently, her role as the supporting female lead is only a fair consort. In order to obtain the favor of the emperor that was played by Su Chaoran, she bribed all of the eunuchs by his side. After learning of the emperor's tracks, she secretly ran to the lotus pond, took off her shoes and socks, and sat down on the stones beside it, playing with the water. She had a beautiful and delicate pair of feet that looked pure white like jade, especially when submerged under the dazzling water. After the emperor walked by and saw the scene, he was captivated by her beautiful feet in an instant. They were absolutely beautiful to him. As if he was being led by the devil, he felt the need to touch her feet. Based on the plot written down in the script, the emperor will successfully touch the feet of the consort and fall in love with them instantly. Then, he will carry this consort away with him back to the Ganyuan palace. After a passionate night together, he will name her as his favored woman. However, an accident happened during the shooting. Dressed in a heavy historical costume, Suyaya took off her shoes and sat on the stone by the lotus pond and played with the water. The sun shone down through the gaps of the leaves on top of Suyaya's body in the surface of the water like a fine layer of gold, creating a dazzlingly beautiful scene. Su Chaoran, who was dressed in the emperor's costume, appeared at this moment, and he saw Suyaya's feet. Fair and beautiful, they attracted his gaze in an instant. He couldn't help but come towards her and reached out his hand, hoping to touch her feet while he spoke his lines, "My dear, how beautiful." And this was where the accident happened. According to the script, Suyaya should try to evade his touch bashfully. But who knew that she would accidentally slip while attempting to do so, and landed her entire person inside of the pond. With a splash, Suyaya fell in. Originally, Suyaya could swim. Even though she wasn't good at it, she still wouldn't drown. However, she was wearing the historical costumes today, which consisted of layers upon layers of fabric. Every piece of her clothing was wide, and they wrapped around her hands and feet after they had gotten wet, stopping her from freeing herself. It was ridiculously heavy, as if something was pulling her down. Seeing that she was going to be pulled underwater, she accidentally choked on a few mouthfuls of water during her panic. Su Chaoran was the closest to Suyaya when it happened. He froze for a moment when he saw Suyaya fall into the lotus pond, but he quickly came back to his senses. This was not what it said in the script. Suyaya had really fallen into the water. Then, without even thinking, he quickly took off his loose robes and jumped in to save Suyaya. After Su Chaoran jumped in, the other crew members had also realized that an accident had happened. They quickly ran over to help them. Su Chaoran jumped into the water and quickly swam his way to Suyaya. He grabbed onto her from behind and took her to the shore. Holding her wet body, he brought her up. Brother Chow, are you okay?" One of the crew members ran over and asked him anxiously. Su Chaoran responded, "I'm fine." Then, he looked down at Suyaya in his arms. When he saw how pale her face was, he asked in worry, "How do you feel?" I'm okay." Suyaya forced down the discomfort in her body and answered. "You don't look so good." I think it's better for you to see a doctor, Su Chaoran suggested. I don't think that's necessary. Listen to me. If you get sick, then you'll also delay the filming for the rest of the crew, Su Chaoran said to her with a serious face that accepted no refusals. Su Yaya. Yu Hui had also rushed over. He said, I think Chaoran is right. It'll be for the best to have a check. He knew very well that Su Yaya was Qin Shiqi's woman. If anything were to happen to her in the crew, then things would still be fine if Qin Shiqi didn't care. If he got angry because of this, then the entire crew would be in deep trouble. And, according to the rumors, Qin Shiqi seemed very concerned about Su Yaya. It's hard to guarantee anything, and he didn't dare to take the gamble. Whether she was fine or not, she should still be sent to the hospital for a check-up just in case. Chapter 99. It Hurts, 2, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99. It Hurts, 2, hurry up and help Chaoran and Xiao Su change their wet clothes, then quickly send her to the hospital. After Yu Hui finished speaking, everyone finally realized that Su Chaoran was still holding Su Yaya. However, in this current situation, everyone's minds were filled with getting her to a hospital and they didn't think much of it. After Duan Xiaoyu returned from buying coffee for Su Yaya, the first thing she saw was Su Yaya wet from head to toe with a terrifying complexion. She was completely shocked and couldn't even bother with the coffee anymore. She quickly brought Su Yaya to the changing room to get changed. On the other hand, Su Chaoran was also taken away by his assistant to the men's changing room to get changed. While changing clothes, Su Yaya could see Duan Xiaoyu's hands shaking. Pulling up a smile on her pale face, she said, I'm really fine. I just ended up like this because I'm on my period. I'll be okay after I drink some red date tea when I'm home. Don't worry. How could I not worry? What will I do if anything happens to you? Women should be even more careful when they're on their period. You can't touch cold water or catch a cold, and you fell into the water. That's no good at all. It's still better to get a check-up just in case. Not taking any no's for an answer, Duan Xiaoyu dragged Su Yaya into the car and brought her to the hospital. After the check-up, the doctor diagnosed Su Yaya with a small cold. And, as she was on her period, her ovaries were weak to begin with and she even fell into the water. If she doesn't take care of herself now, she'll have hell to suffer through when she gets older. Once he was done nagging Su Yaya, he prescribed a large pile of medicines for Su Yaya to take home and eat. Su Yaya didn't like to eat medicine so she didn't want to go get them. She complained to Duan Xiaoyu, I said I didn't need to see the doctor but you wouldn't take no for an answer. And look, they gave me so much medicine, this is injustice. Who likes taking medicine in this day and age? I'm not a masochist. But Duan Xiaoyu remembered how Qin Shiqi had asked her to take good care of Su Yaya before heading out. Regardless of what Su Yaya says, they still have to go and get the medicine. She also said to Su Yaya, I'll have to supervise you when you take your medicine. Otherwise, I'll tell Sis Zhou and President Chen. Su Yaya glared at her and pouted, you're my assistant so you should be on my side. It's no good if you report me to them like that, you know. Holding the medicine in hand, Duan Xiaoyu insisted, but you can't be so reckless with your body. If something happens to you, then Sis Zhou and President Chen will blame me for not taking care of you too. Su Yaya sighed. She felt like she didn't just get a new assistant, she got a new mother. Fine, forget it. Let's go back. Since she can't get through to Duan Xiaoyu, Su Yaya gave up. After driving back to the hotel where she was staying, Su Yaya immediately went for a hot shower. After falling into the water and getting wet, then going to the hospital for a check, she had only changed to a new set of clothes and hadn't had the time to clean herself, which made her feel very uncomfortable. Now that she can finally have a nice warm shower, she finally felt relaxed. After she came out, Duan Xiaoyu gave her medicine again and said with concern, Sis Yaya, you should take a nap after you eat your medicine. It's good to have some rest. Su Yaya responded with a hum and climbed into bed. She pulled the blanket over herself and closed her eyes, falling asleep. Duan Xiaoyu stayed beside her and waited until she fell asleep before heading out in light steps. She took out her phone to call Zhou Peiyun and report to her that Su Yaya fell into the water on the set today. Before she could even find her number, another call came. It was one of the members from the crew, calling to say that Su Yaya's handbag had been left at the set, and asking her to come pick it up. Only then did Duan Xiaoyu remember that Su Yaya had left her phone in her handbag and handed it to her before filming. She asked Su Yaya to go buy her coffee and she returned just in time to see Su Yaya fished out of the water. In a hurry, she helped her change her clothes before bringing her to the hospital and completely forgot to take Su Yaya's bag. Chapter 100. It Hurts, 3, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100. It Hurts, 3, I'll come right now, Duan Xiaoyu thanked the crew member. Then, she looked at the bed. Su Yaya was laying there, sleeping soundly. She was unlikely to be waking up anytime soon. So, she quickly set out to get Su Yaya's bag. When Duan Xiaoyu arrived at the set, the crew member who called her brought Su Yaya's bag from the staff room to her. This Chanel handbag costs at least a few $100,000. There were also some of Su Yaya's personal belongings in there. She couldn't afford to lose it. Check and see if anything is missing, the crew member reminded her with a good heart. Okay, thank you. Duan Xiaoyu knew there wasn't much in Su Yaya's bags. There were just tissues, compact powder, lip tint, a small mirror, and whatnot. The only important thing in there was her phone. With today's technology, smartphones are increasingly useful, but they also touch upon a person's personal privacy. Especially as Su Yaya was an artist, things would not be good if anything leaked out. So, she quickly opened the handbag to check. It was still there. Su Yaya's Apple smartphone was still there. Su Yaya was the one who set the password herself, so even she didn't know it. Everything should be fine. After checking her bag and making sure that nothing was missing, Duan Xiaoyu thanked the crew member. The crew member replied in jest and said if she really wanted to thank her, then she should invite her for a drink. Seeing that she had helped her out, it should only be proper for Duan Xiaoyu to buy her a cup of milk tea. So, she smiled and said, sure. Let's go together. Since the crew member was also free at this time, the two of them headed for a milk tea shop. Halfway through her sleep, Su Yaya was woken up by her cramps. This was the first time she had her period since she transmigrated over. She never expected it to be so painful as she had never experienced cramps to such a degree before. Even if it hurts, it was just a dull throb, which was still tolerable. But this body was clearly different from her own, even the pain tolerance was different. Also, her current condition was very bad. Her flow was extremely heavy, almost like it was an open faucet down there. A constant stream of heat was flowing outwards and her headache was causing her to see stars. The cold sweat lining her forehead almost gave her the illusion that she was going to die. She suddenly remembered that the female doctor told her in the hospital. Your ovaries were weak to begin with and you even fell into the water. If you don't take care of yourself now, she'll have hell to suffer through. Thinking about this now made her a little scared. She quickly called out to Xiaoyu, but nobody responded to her. She got up and looked around. Nobody was in the room. So, she could only get up herself and find her phone to make a call. Unfortunately, she couldn't find her phone either. While she was still in a fluster, she heard a knock on the door. Su Yaya thought that Xiaoyu had returned, so she endured the pain in her stomach and went over to open the door. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Su Chaoran standing outside. Before waiting for her to speak, he quickly stated the intentions of his visit. Are you doing okay? You fell into the water this afternoon, so I've come to visit. Su Yaya was just about to say that she was fine. But as soon as she opened her mouth, she felt the heat flowing out from below and her vision went dark. Uncontrollably, she toppled forward. Su Yaya. Su Chaoran reached out to catch her. After looking down, he realized that her face was as white as a sheet. Her forehead was also covered in cold sweat and her entire body was shaking. What happened to you? Su Yaya's appearance gave Su Chaoran a fright. Worry could be seen on his handsome face as he asked her anxiously. Bouts of pain came one after another in Su Yaya's stomach. Her vision was growing dark and she was sweating profusely. She felt extremely weak. It hurts that I feel bad. The author has something to say. I just told you all that Su Chaoran could be a supporting male lead, but nobody believed me, la 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 la.